Meet Jay. Back in 2019, he wasn't just a face on a screen, he was a phenomenon. A young guy, only 23 years old, from New Jersey, who had mastered the art of viral generosity. His feed was a constant stream of feel-good moments. Jay walking up to a gas station attendant, a single mom pushing a stroller, a street vendor hawking hot dogs, and surprising them with hundreds, sometimes thousands, of dollars in cash. The reactions were gold. Shock turning to disbelief, then pure, unadulterated joy, sometimes tears. Jay would stand there, microphone clipped on, camera person capturing every angle, beaming, accepting hugs, saying things like, "Just trying to share the blessings," or "Give back to the community." These videos weren't just popular, they exploded. They got shared on every platform. His follower count on Instagram soared, climbing rapidly towards that coveted million mark. People saw him as more than just an influencer. He was an inspiration. He seemed to have cracked some secret code to success at a young age, living a life of apparent luxury, flashy cars he posed with, high-end clothing, trips to beautiful places, all presented online as the natural result of hard work and hustle. But there was a layer even deeper than the money and the luxury, a carefully cultivated aspect that made his connection with a large part of his audience incredibly strong and ultimately incredibly vulnerable. Jay presented himself as a devout Muslim, a man whose success was guided by his faith. His social media wasn't just about the material wealth, it was intertwined with spirituality. He'd post quotes from the Quran, share reflections on gratitude, humility, and the importance of conducting life and business in a halal way, ethically and permissible under Islamic law. He'd post pictures of himself praying, sometimes in mosques or even traveling to significant religious sites, filming himself looking deeply contemplative, sincere. He made a specific video that went viral within Muslim circles, showing him praying in a holy spot. "I'm praying right where the Prophet used to pray," he said softly to the camera, his voice quiet, almost reverent. That feeling right there, it's the greatest feeling ever. It's worth more than $1 million. He used the language of faith, trust, blessing, community, halal, to build an almost unbreakable bond with a significant portion of his audience. People saw the public prayers, the seemingly genuine reflections, combined with the undeniable success and the highly visible acts of charity, and they thought, this young man is truly guided. He is successful, but he is also good. He embodies the principles we value. He would never take advantage of us. We can trust him. But somewhere along the line, probably in late 2019 or early 2020, the performance wasn't enough. The likes, the comments, the feeling of being adored, it all paled in comparison to the insatiable hunger for more money. Jay looked at the ocean of trust he commanded and saw not a community to uplift, but a resource to drain. The whispers of greed in his head became a roaring demand. How can I monetize this trust? How can I turn these loyal, believing followers into pure profit? The answer was simple, cynical, and devastating. He would steal from them. And because he had built his image so carefully on faith and goodwill, stealing from his followers, especially within the Muslim community who believed in his halal approach, was shockingly easy. He decided to create an investment platform, something that directly leveraged that faith-based trust. He announced the launch of Halal Capital LLC. The name was a stroke of manipulative genius. It immediately signaled safety, ethical practice, and adherence to religious principles. His pitch was delivered through high-energy social media posts, slickly produced videos, and even targeted ads. "Are you tired of investments that don't align with your values?" he'd ask, looking directly at the camera, his eyes bright with feigned sincerity. "Do you want your money to grow, but need to know it's done the right way, the halal way?" He spoke with authority, confidence. "At Halal Capital, that's what we do. Guided by faith, powered by smart business, we invest in real assets, stocks, cutting-edge technology, even vital equipment like PPE." He didn't just promise returns, he promised blessed returns. He hinted at exclusive opportunities, deals only available through him. "My team and I are working tirelessly to ensure your investments not only grow, but do so in a manner that is pure and permissible." He also pushed his online courses hard, expensive programs promising to reveal his secrets to wealth and success. "Unlock your inner millionaire. The Jay Mazzini blueprint to financial freedom. He'd sell them with urgency and exclusivity. Limited spots available. The first 1,000 signups get personal mentorship from Jay himself. It played on people's desires. The dream of quick riches, the yearning for direct access to someone they admired, the belief that buying this course was buying a shortcut to his life. People from all walks of life, drawn in by different parts of his image, started sending him money. Aisha, the single mom, saw the ad for Halal Capital. She'd invested that $997 in his course, hoping to start a business, but felt she needed more. She had a small inheritance from her grandmother, $15,000, meant for a rainy day or the kid's future. Investing it with Halal Capital, hearing Jay talk about ethical growth, felt like the responsible, faithful thing to do. She clicked transfer, a knot of hope and anxiety in her stomach. "Please let this be real," she whispered to herself. Bilal, the grocery store owner, invested another $20,000, this time from his personal savings, convincing his wife it was a solid, halal opportunity with a trusted community member. "He's got connections," Bilal told her. "He's blessed. He gives to the poor. This is safe." He envisioned expanding the store, maybe even opening a second location in a nearby neighborhood that needed a good market. There was also Tariq, a young college student who saw Jay as a role model. Tariq borrowed $5,000 from his family, money meant for textbooks and rent, and invested it in Halal Capital after watching a video where Jay talked about supporting young entrepreneurs within the community. "He believes in us," Tariq thought, feeling a surge of pride and hope. "He'll help me grow this." But the chilling reality of Jay's operation was a stark contrast to the pious, prosperous image he projected. Halal Capital LLC was nothing but a sophisticated vacuum cleaner. Money came in from Aisha, Bilal, Tariq, and thousands of others, promising ethical investment and growth. It then immediately bypassed any actual investment activity and flowed directly into Jay's personal bank accounts. It was a conveyor belt of theft, moving funds from hopeful investors to the con artist's personal fortune. What did he do with the millions pouring in? He lived a life of obscene luxury, a lifestyle that existed primarily to be broadcast online and attract more victims. He wasn't just leasing cars, he was buying them. Lamborghinis, Ferraris, Rolls-Royces, parked strategically for photo ops. He wasn't just renting penthouses. He was staying in the most exclusive suites in five-star hotels around the world, the kind with breathtaking views and nightly rates that exceeded many people's monthly rent. He filled walk-in closets with designer clothes, sported watches that cost more than houses, dined at Michelin-starred restaurants, the kind where the cutlery was silver and the waiters seemed to float. He'd post photos of these experiences constantly, always with captions hinting at hustle, blessings, and the rewards of faith. Putting in work, surrounded by peace, he'd caption a picture of him on a yacht. Grateful for moments like these, accompanying a shot of a gourmet meal. His followers ate it up, leaving comments like, "Mashallah, God has willed it, living the dream. You earned this." They saw the lifestyle as proof that his investment strategies, his courses, his whole message were real. They didn't see the source of the funds. And the most perverse part of his operation? He used the very money he stole to fund the viral giveaways that cemented his image as the generous, successful benefactor. He'd pull up in a Ferrari bought with Tariq's family's loan money, step out wearing a watch purchased with Bilal's store savings, and hand a construction worker a stack of bills that came from Aisha's grandmother's inheritance. Imagine it zoomed out. A man performing acts of extravagant charity, captured on high-definition video, broadcast to millions, lauded as a saint, all while funding the spectacle with the life savings, hopes, and dreams he had just stolen from the very people who admired him most. He would stand there smiling, charming, making brief, heartfelt connections with the giveaway recipients, capturing their genuine joy and gratitude. Did he feel anything? Any guilt? Any conflict, given his public piety? Or was it just cold calculation, seeing each recipient as a prop, each video as a marketing tool funded by crime? The chilling efficiency of his deception suggests the latter. These giveaways, fueled by fraud, were incredibly effective. They constantly brought new eyes, new followers, new potential investors to his profile. By 2020, his reach and apparent legitimacy were so great that he started mingling with and featuring real celebrities in his content. This wasn't just impressive, it was a huge credibility boost. Picture a scene. Jay, maybe at a private party or event. His camera person is nearby, ready. He spots 50 Cent. Jay walks over, smooth, confident. Yo, Fitty, my man. Hope you good. 50 Cent, seeing the recognizable influencer, gives a nod, maybe a handshake. What's up, Jay? Jay grins, pulling out his phone or gesturing to his camera person. Just want to get you on the gram real quick. Show the people who I'm rolling with. 50 Cent obliges, maybe a quick wave. A line like, yeah, big moves happening, or keep doing your thing, Jay. It's a few seconds, casual but online. It exploded. Jay's really in the circle. He's legit connected. Same with Fabulous. Another video, another moment of apparent camaraderie. Got my brother Fabulous right here. Jay beams, standing next to the rapper, showing the people how we elevate. These cameos weren't deep friendships. They were transactions of perceived status, expertly leveraged by Jay to convince his followers that he was truly playing in the major leagues, that his success was undeniable, and therefore, that his investment opportunities must be real. But no lie, no matter how well-funded or how beautifully filmed, can last forever. As Halal Capital grew, the number of investors grew, and the time came when those early investors expected returns or simply wanted their money back. The messages and emails started innocently enough. Salam alaikum, Jay. Hope you are well. Just checking on my investment. Due date passed last week? Hey, Jay, love the new video. Quick question about withdrawing some funds from Halal Capital. Jay's response strategy was a masterclass in evasion and reassurance. He had pre-written messages, invented excuses for calls. Ah, yes. We are just finalizing a major payout cycle. System is experiencing some minor delays. Your funds are secure and growing, inshallah, God willing. Experiencing high volume of withdrawal requests due to massive recent gains. Our team is working overtime to process. Appreciate your patience? He'd use religious language, technical jargon, anything to delay. When delays weren't enough, and investors became more insistent, even angry, Jay had to pay them something to prevent panic. This is where the classic Ponzi scheme mechanics kicked into high gear. Money from new investors coming into Halal Capital was immediately rerouted. Some went to Jay's personal spending accounts. The rest went to pay back the loudest, earliest, or most threatening investors, demanding their principal or promised returns. He had to constantly track who was owed, who was getting noisy, who needed just enough to stay quiet and maybe even tell others they'd been paid. It was a frantic, hidden life of spreadsheets and anxious phone calls, a stark contrast to the serene, confident image he showed the world. He was a conductor of chaos, trying to keep a dozen different plates spinning, each one representing someone's life savings. But the numbers were impossible. Jay's extravagant spending, coupled with the ever-increasing number of investors and their demands, meant the money from new victims wasn't enough to cover the growing pile of debt to existing ones. The Ponzi scheme was mathematically doomed, collapsing faster than he could find new money to feed it. He was desperate. The pressure was immense, a hidden vice tightening around his carefully constructed world. He needed a massive, quick infusion of cash outside the normal Halal Capital flow that was now under strain. That's when he came up with the Bitcoin scam. It was a direct appeal to people who might not even be in Halal Capital, reaching into a different pool of potential victims. He announced it with maximum hype on social media. "Huge news for my loyal followers only," his post screamed. "I'm buying Bitcoin, and not just at market price. I'm paying more than it's worth." He presented it as a special favor, a token of appreciation for his community. "If you hold Bitcoin, this is your chance for instant profit. Send me your Bitcoin, and I'll wire you cash for a premium. Limited spots. DM me now." He made it sound like a secret deal, a chance to benefit from his supposed insider knowledge or unique financial position. It didn't make logical sense, buying an asset for more than its value, but he was banking on people's greed, trust, and the fear of missing out. Jay must have a reason, people thought. He's smart. He's blessed. He wouldn't offer free money unless there was a play here. Let's get in. Plenty fell for it. Tariq, despite still not seeing returns from his Halal Capital investment, had a small amount of Bitcoin he'd bought earlier. He messaged Jay, who replied quickly, sounding excited about the deal. Tariq logged into his crypto wallet, a complex series of passwords and security checks. He typed in Jay's wallet address, double-checked it, felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. He clicked send. The Bitcoin vanished from his wallet, converted into a string of data on the blockchain, heading towards Jay. Days passed. No cash transfer. Tariq messaged Jay. Hey, sent the Bitcoin, just waiting on the wire? Jay's reply was instant, accompanied by an image. My bad, bro. Thought it went through. Check your email. Just resent the transfer confirmation. Should hit any minute. Tariq checked his email. And there it was, an attachment. He opened it. It looked real. A screenshot of a bank interface showing a wire transfer initiated to his account. The exact amount Jay promised, with a confirmation number. It looked legitimate. He felt a wave of relief. Okay, just delayed, he thought. But the money never arrived. Not that minute, not that day, not ever. The screenshot was a fake, a carefully crafted forgery. Jay, or maybe someone working for him, was skilled enough to create convincing duplicates of bank transfer confirmations, complete with logos, dates, and transaction details. It was a simple, effective way to buy time, delay panic, and make victims feel like the money was coming, just stuck somewhere in the system. Between Halal Capital, the fake courses, the Ponzi payments, and the Bitcoin fraud, Jay was operating a criminal enterprise of staggering scale. He defrauded his followers, many from the community that revered him, out of a total of $8 million. $8 million. It wasn't just a number in a financial report. It was a tidal wave of ruined lives. It was Aisha staring at her bank statement online, refreshing it over and over, seeing nothing, a cold dread washing over her as she realized the inheritance was gone, the hope for her kid's future dissolving into thin air. It was Bilal avoiding his wife's eyes, the shame burning hotter than any anger, having to tell her the money for the store expansion was gone, vanished into the hands of a man he trusted because he prayed on camera. It was Tariq having to call his family, confessing he'd lost the money meant for school, feeling like a fool, betrayed by his idol. These weren't anonymous transactions. They were deeply personal betrayals. The fact that Jay had wrapped his lies in the language of faith, targeting a community that valued trust and ethical conduct, made the fraud particularly cruel. Victims spoke of not just losing money, but losing a piece of their faith in humanity, in community, in the very values Jay claimed to embody. For a long time, Jay's image protected him. People saw the viral giveaways, the celebrity selfies, the pious posts, and struggled to believe he could be a cold, calculating thief. But as more people failed to receive money, as more fake screenshots circulated, the individual whispers of doubt converged into an undeniable chorus of alarm. Online forums dedicated to Jay, which once featured fan art and praise, turned into hubs for worried investors comparing notes. A Telegram group formed, then a Discord server. People started sharing their stories, their fake confirmations, their unanswered messages. The truth, ugly and painful, began to emerge. Jay Mazzini, the golden boy, was a fraud. The online chatter grew louder, spilling out into public comments, challenging his posts directly. Jay started deleting comments, blocking users, but it was a losing battle. The rumors became too widespread, too persistent. The scale of the fraud was too large to hide. That's when the victims, heartbroken, angry, and feeling deeply betrayed, started contacting the authorities. They compiled their evidence, bank transfers to Jay, screenshots of his promises, copies of the fake confirmations from him, records of their Bitcoin transactions. They reached out to local police, state authorities, and eventually, given the scope and interstate nature of the fraud, the FBI and the IRS. And boom, the full weight of federal law enforcement began to descend. This wasn't just a local complaint. This was a pattern of multi-million-dollar fraud impacting people across states. The FBI and the IRS opened formal, serious investigations. They started subpoenaing Jay's bank records, his company filings, or lack thereof, his social media data, his digital footprint. The hidden life of fraud was being exposed, piece by painstaking piece. For Jay, the physical knock on the door hadn't happened yet, but the walls of his carefully constructed prison of lies were beginning to crack under external pressure. He had to know they were coming. Adding fuel to the fire, a relentless force appeared online around 2021. An Instagram account created specifically to expose him, a Jay Mazzini scam. This wasn't just random online chatter. It was a focused, dedicated campaign. The account posted daily, sometimes hourly, dismantling Jay's image. It shared irrefutable evidence, side-by-side comparisons of real versus fake bank screenshots, heartbreaking testimonials from victims, shared anonymously or with permission, detailed breakdowns of his Ponzi mechanics, pointing out inconsistencies in his own posts. It was a constant, public, and humiliating stream of truth seen by many of the people Jay was still trying to deceive or had already scammed. Jay was reportedly furious. He was losing control of his online narrative, the very thing his empire was built on. He tried to fight back, reporting the account, maybe getting some posts taken down temporarily, blocking thousands of users who questioned him. But a Jay Mazzini scam kept coming back, kept posting. It chipped away at his credibility, fueled victim coordination, and increased the pressure from authorities. Jay became increasingly paranoid. He was obsessed with discovering who was behind the account. He suspected various people, but he fixated on one. Judd, a former associate, a guy in his late 20s, tech-savvy, someone who knew Jay's world from the inside. Judd later maintained his innocence regarding the account, but Jay was convinced. In his mind, Judd was the architect of his public downfall, the enemy who needed to be silenced. Jay decided he had to deal with Judd directly, forcefully. He didn't involve his usual online crew or business associates in the planning. This required a different kind of help. He reportedly arranged to meet with two individuals, two masked goons, perhaps known to him from other circles, men willing to use intimidation and violence for money. They planned the confrontation, the snatch and grab. Then Jay reached out to Judd, hiding his true intentions behind a facade of casual connection. Jay, DM late night. Yo, Judd. Crazy busy life out here, lol. Been meaning to link. Grab coffee sometime. Judd, DM. Hey, Jay. Yeah, man. Totally get it. Def down to link. Been wild over here, too. Just LMK when where. My schedule's tight. Jay, DM. How about soon? Like tomorrow night. Keep it low-key. Maybe near my place? Around 9? Easy meet. Judd, DM. Was planning on chilling, but okay, why not? Everything straight though? Seen some stuff online. Jay, DM. Haha, ignore the noise, man. All blessings over here. Just want to connect. Near my building works good. See you around 9. Judd, despite perhaps seeing some stuff online, might have given Jay the benefit of the doubt, chalked up the online drama to haters, or maybe he was simply curious. He agreed to meet Jay near his apartment building that night. He arrived at the agreed-upon time, found Jay waiting, perhaps leaning against his car, looking relaxed. Jay suggested they just talk in the car for a minute to keep it discreet. Judd got in, settling into the passenger seat or perhaps the back with Jay driving. The conversation started innocently, catching up, talking about life, the weather. Then the atmosphere in the car shifted in an instant. The back doors, which Judd hadn't seen the goons get into, suddenly swung open. Two men, their faces concealed by dark masks, slid quickly into the back seat. Silent, imposing. They were just there. Judd's body went rigid. His breath hitched. His mind struggled to process what was happening. Two masked men in Jay's car. What the hell is this, Jay? He stammered, looking frantically at Jay, then back at the goons. Jay didn't explain, didn't apologize. His face might have been unreadable in the dim light, perhaps tight with tension or cold determination. He simply put the car in drive and pulled away from the curb, leaving the quiet street behind. The casual chat was over. The terrifying reality of a kidnapping was just beginning. The drive was a prolonged ordeal of psychological terror. The masked goons in the back seat were menacing. They didn't need to shout immediately. Their presence, their masks, their silence spoke volumes. Then the demands started, their voices rough, deliberately intimidating. All right, Judd, we know you're the one. We know about the account. Give us the password. The questions came rapid fire, laced with threats. Who else knows about this? Who are you working with? Jay drove, his role chillingly clear. He was the orchestrator, using these men as his instruments. He might have added his own cold commands, spoken calmly from the driver's seat, directing the interrogation. Tell them what they want to know, Judd. Judd was trapped, a wave of sheer panic washing over him. His heart hammered against his ribs, his breath coming in short, ragged gasps. He stammered, his voice tight with fear, denying he had anything to do with the account, denying he had access. He watched the unfamiliar streets flashing by, trying to get his bearings, praying someone, anyone, had seen him get into the car, had seen the masked men. The longer the drive went on, the deeper the dread settled in. They drove for what felt like an eternity, perhaps through industrial areas, past abandoned buildings, or just endlessly through the maze of city streets, building a terrifying sense of isolation despite being in a populated area. The air in the car felt thick, heavy with fear and unspoken threats. He could hear the goons breathing behind him, feel their eyes on his back. He had to get out. He had to try. He watched for any opportunity, any moment the car slowed. As Jay finally eased off the gas, preparing for a turn, Umjud saw it. A split second. A desperate, terrifying chance. Jumping from a moving car was insane. It was reckless. It could kill him. But the thought of where they were taking him, what they might do when they got there, was worse. His survival instinct screamed louder than his fear. "Listen, you guys, this is completely messed up," he yelled, adrenaline surging, his hand already fumbling for the door handle. Bam! He threw himself outward. He hit the hard pavement with a violent, sickening impact. The world spun. Pain, sharp and immediate, shot up his leg, his side. He rolled, scrambling desperately, trying to push himself up. His body screamed in protest, but his mind had only one command: run. He scrambled to his feet, ignoring the searing agony in his ankle, and ran blindly away from the car, away from the figures pouring out after him. The chase was on. He could hear their heavy footsteps pounding behind him, hear their shouts, maybe Jay's voice among them, sharp with anger. He ran as fast as his injured body would allow, gasping for air, pushing through the pain. He saw an alleyway ahead, a potential escape route, and lunged into it, hoping it would lead to another street, to safety. But the alley walls closed in, brick on either side, ending abruptly in a solid, unyielding barrier. No, 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 no. The despair hit him like a physical blow, a dead end. He was trapped. They were right behind him, cutting off his retreat. He spun around wildly, his eyes scanning for any way out. His gaze landed on a metal fire escape ladder, climbing straight up the side of the building. It was his only option. With a surge of desperate energy, he scrambled towards it, pulling himself up the cold metal rungs, hands scraping, legs burning, adrenaline fueled by sheer terror. He reached the top, a small platform, pulling himself over the railing, collapsing for a second, gasping. And then, the crushing realization. Another dead end. Just a small balcony, high above the ground, with the sound of the goons already starting to climb the ladder below him. He was cornered. Nowhere left to run, nowhere left to hide. They reached the top, stepping onto the balcony, their masked faces just feet away. There was no escape. They were on him immediately. The beating began. Fists impacting his body, aimed at his torso, his head, anywhere that would inflict pain and break his will. "Where's the password?" one roared, the sound muffled by his mask. "Tell us who is running that account." Umjud, already hurt from the jump, now taking blow after blow, curled up, trying to protect himself, crying out in pain, gasping out his truth. "I don't have it. It's not me. I swear." "Please." They didn't stop until they were satisfied, or perhaps exhausted by the effort. They had beaten him, but they hadn't gotten the password, hadn't gotten the confession they wanted. Frustrated, they dragged his battered, aching body back down the ladder, back to the car. They forced him inside, ignoring his pain, and sped off to a secondary location, a place where they could continue their interrogation away from any prying eyes. It was a basement. The air was thick with a musty, damp smell, cold and heavy. Bare concrete walls seemed to absorb any sound. Dimly lit, maybe by a single flickering bulb. A terrifying, isolated space. They dragged him inside, forcing him deeper into the room. The first thing they did was strip him naked. It was a deliberate act of power, of humiliation, designed to strip him of his dignity and make him feel utterly vulnerable, exposed, a mere object in their hands. Naked, bruised, shivering from the cold and the terror, he stood before them. One of the goons stepped forward, and in his hand, catching the dim light, was a long, sharp blade, a machete. He didn't strike immediately. He held it, Let Umjud see it, feel the weight of the threat. The goon's voice was low, chillingly calm, a stark contrast to the violence he had just inflicted. This is your last chance, Umjud. He might have slowly dragged the tip of the machete along the concrete floor, the sound grating in the silence, or held it steady, the point aimed casually in Umjud's direction. The account, the password, every single person helping you. We need it all. Now. Perhaps in this isolated basement, Jay wasn't physically present. Maybe he was on a phone, directing the goons, his voice coming through a speakerphone, a chilling, disembodied command. Tell them, Umjud, don't be stupid. Give them the access. Make this easy. Umjud, battered, naked, facing the glinting blade, could only repeat his truth, his voice broken, tears streaming down his face, mixing with the sweat and blood. I told you. I swear, I don't have the password. It's not my account. I don't know who runs it. Please, please. His body trembled uncontrollably. He hyperventilated, the cold air burning his lungs. He begged, pleaded, insisted on his innocence, even as the goons grew visibly impatient, their frustration mounting. They might have inflicted more pain, maybe not with the machete, but with fists or feet, trying to beat the truth out of him. But he couldn't give them something he didn't possess. Eventually, after a period of agonizing terror and fruitless demands, the goons seemed to reach a decision. Maybe Jay, on the other end of the phone, called it off, realizing Umjud genuinely couldn't help, or perhaps growing concerned about the risks involved. Maybe the goons themselves decided he wasn't worth the trouble or the potential exposure. Whatever the reason, the threat subsided. They had failed to get the password, failed to get a confession. They were letting him go. They didn't offer an apology or an explanation. They simply ended the ordeal, driving him somewhere, perhaps back closer to his home, and leaving him there, injured, traumatized, but alive. Maybe they threw his clothes out after him, a final act of petty cruelty, or maybe he had to find his way, naked and hurt, seeking help. Despite his state, bruised, aching, with a severely sprained ankle that made walking agony, and deeply traumatized by the violence and humiliation, Umjud knew he couldn't just disappear. He had to report what happened. He somehow made his way to the nearest police station. Walking in, injured and visibly distressed, he would have immediately drawn attention. An officer would have rushed over. "Sir, are you okay? What happened?" Umjud, his voice trembling, recounted the unbelievable story. The social media star, the fake meeting, the masked kidnappers, the terrifying drive, his desperate jump, the brutal chase, the dead ends, the beating, the cold basement, being stripped naked, the chilling threat of the machete, the demands about an Instagram account. As he spoke, detailing the physical assault, showing his injuries, the sprained ankle, the bruises, the marks from being handled roughly, the officers would have gone from initial concern to shock, then to the grim realization that this was a major violent crime. They documented his injuries, took his full statement, piecing together the horrifying narrative. With Umjud's detailed report, his visible injuries, and the identification of Jay Mazzini as the orchestrator, the police had probable cause for immediate action. This wasn't just a scam investigation anymore. It was a violent felony. Just 2 days after Umjud reported the terrifying ordeal, the police moved. Early in the morning, perhaps, before Jay expected it. Police vehicles descended on Jay's luxurious home, the address he constantly flaunted online. This wasn't a discreet inquiry, it was an arrest. Officers would have knocked, or perhaps even breached the door. Jay's reaction? Shock? Outrage? Did he try to play the celebrity card? Do you know who I am? Did he try to deny everything? This is a mistake. There must be some misunderstanding. It didn't matter. The police were there for him. The man who projected an image of being untouchable, blessed, and above reproach was being taken down in his own home. He was arrested, read his rights, placed in handcuffs. His mugshot, a stark, unsmiling photo contrasting sharply with the curated perfection of his online profile, was taken and would soon be seen by the very millions he had deceived. He was initially charged with kidnapping and assault based on Umjud's detailed report and physical evidence of the attack. But while Jay was sitting in jail, the walls continued to close in. The federal investigation into his multi-million-dollar scams, Halal Capital, the Ponzi scheme, the Bitcoin fraud, the fake courses, was already far along. With Jay unable to manage his complex web of lies, the evidence became undeniable. The FBI and IRS had tracked the money, identified victims, analyzed the forged documents and fake screenshots. The police added the extensive financial crime charges to his case, multiple counts of wire fraud, operating a criminal enterprise, money laundering, all stemming from the $8 million he stole. Jay was now facing a mountain of evidence and the prospect of spending the rest of his life behind bars. And then, in a twist that added a final, jaw-dropping layer to this already incredible story, Jay's wife reportedly entered the picture. Whether she was trying to protect him out of loyalty or perhaps genuinely believed in his innocence despite the mounting evidence, she took a drastic criminal step. She allegedly reached out to Judd, the key witness in the kidnapping case, the man whose testimony could send her husband away for a very long time on the violence charges. Imagine the audacity. Judd, still recovering physically and emotionally from the beating, the jump, the basement ordeal, and the betrayal. He receives contact from Jay's wife. Maybe she called him, her voice seemingly soft and concerned. Maybe she arranged a meeting through a third party to keep it secret. Her pitch would have been carefully crafted, designed to persuade, to tempt. Judd, she might have said, her tone sympathetic, perhaps tinged with sadness. I know Jay messed up. He made mistakes. What happened? It was wrong. He's under a lot of pressure, but he's not a kidnapper. Not really. It wasn't like that. She tried to downplay the violence, frame it as a misunderstanding, a heavy-handed attempt to talk, maybe, but not a kidnapping. And then, the offer, the staggering, undeniable offer. We want to help you. We know you were hurt. We can make this right. You don't have to go through testifying. You don't have to deal with all this drama. A pause, then the number. $200,000, cash. It's yours. Just tell the police it wasn't a kidnapping. Say you weren't forced. Say you went willingly and things got out of hand. $200,000. For a young man who had just been beaten, humiliated, lost his Bitcoin or investment money to Jay, and was now facing potential medical bills and the stress of being a key witness against a dangerous man, that amount was staggering. It represented security, a chance to recover, a way out of the legal entanglement. It was a monumental test of his moral compass. Could he accept money from the very people who had orchestrated his terror? Could he lie to protect the man who had tried to silence him with violence? Could he abandon the pursuit of justice for himself and the countless other victims for a payoff? In a decision that added a layer of complexity and disappointment for many, Judd reportedly accepted the offer. He agreed to take the $200,000 bribe and change his statement to the police. The details of the money exchange, how it happened, if it was in cash or a transfer, aren't fully known publicly, but the agreement was made. Judd took the money and committed to lying to law enforcement. But attempts to obstruct justice, especially in high-profile federal cases, are rarely successful. It's not publicly known exactly how the police found out about the bribe attempt and its acceptance. Perhaps alert detectives noticed a sudden change in Judd's demeanor or story after contact with Jay's wife. Maybe surveillance already in place on Jay's family as part of the larger investigation intercepted communications or observed the exchange of funds. Perhaps one of the goons involved in the kidnapping, if caught, testified about the plan and the subsequent damage control attempts. However they discovered it, the consequences were swift and added another layer of shock to the saga. Bam! Police arrived to arrest Jay's wife. The charge was offering a bribe to a witness, a serious felony. Her attempt to shield her husband landed her squarely in the legal crosshairs. And because he had accepted the money and agreed to lie to investigators, Judd was also arrested. Bam! The charge, taking a bribe, tampering with a witness. Both their mugshots, a grim addition to Jay's, became part of the public record, highlighting the far-reaching consequences of Jay's initial crimes and the subsequent attempts to cover them up. While the legal outcomes for Jay's wife and Judd on the bribery charges aren't widely reported, the main case against Jay for the scams and the kidnapping moved forward. Facing overwhelming evidence of defrauding $8 million, coupled with the violent kidnapping documented by Judd's initial report and injuries, Jay knew his chances at trial were minimal. The potential sentence, if found guilty on all counts, was effectively life in prison. He ultimately took a plea deal, agreeing to plead guilty to several of the major financial fraud charges. The courtroom during his sentencing would have held a somber, perhaps tense atmosphere. Judge and lawyers, courtroom staff, maybe some reporters, and possibly, just possibly, some of his victims. Aisha, Bilal, Tariq, or others, sitting silently watching. The man who had shown them only a polished, generous facade, the man who had stolen their futures, stood before the judge to receive his fate. Victim impact statements would have been read, recounting the devastating financial losses, the emotional toll, the betrayal of trust, especially the cynical use of faith to facilitate the fraud. Parents talking about ruined college plans, small business owners about lost livelihoods, individuals about vanished life savings. The raw pain in their voices contrasting with Jay's likely impassive demeanor at the defense table. The judge would have weighed the severity of the crimes, the multi-million-dollar scale of the fraud, the systematic targeting of trusting individuals, the use of violence and intimidation, the attempts to obstruct justice. The sentence was handed down. Jay Mazzini, the online sensation, the self-proclaimed man of faith and generosity, was sentenced to 7 years in state prison. 7 years. For orchestrating a fraud that cost victims $8 million. For building an empire on lies, manipulation, and the exploitation of religious trust. For the terrifying violence inflicted during the attempted kidnapping. For the countless lives he impacted. The financial ruin, the emotional devastation, the feeling of betrayal that cut to the bone. It was a sentence that reflected the gravity of the financial crimes, though perhaps felt insufficient to victims considering the total loss and the violence. Jay Mazzini, the king of fake giveaways, now resides within the cold, hard reality of a prison cell, a stark symbol of the consequences that eventually catch up to even the most carefully crafted online deceptions. The $8 million he stole is largely gone, filtered through his luxury spending and legal defenses, leaving the victims to pick up the pieces of their shattered lives. His story remains a potent, disturbing cautionary tale in the digital age, a reminder that not everyone who shines brightly online is a force for good, that trust, especially when wrapped in compelling narratives of wealth and faith, can be a powerful weapon, and that sometimes the most generous hands on screen are attached to the coldest hearts in reality.